Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Riveters CAD Training. Lesson 7. We are starting assemblies for the basic chassis. So we've created all the parts in yellow, and now we're going to create this assembly. So first thing we do, jump to Inventor. I'm following along on another computer. So, create assembly. And now we need to save this as DWG2, obviously your initials, and we're going to label it base chassis. And say save. Now the first thing I want to do is create a turn on the origin and create an offset plane so we can reference all the lower cross members to a plane. So if you click on origin, and you'll see that let's go into top, right, and front view. And what we want to do is just right click and turn on visualization for the XZ plane. And we're going to say we're going to create an offset plane. So plane, hit the down arrow, plane, touch on the plane. And we're going to come up 1 inch and say OK. In fact, it's not a bad idea to come in and rename this. And bottom of chassis. The reason I like assembling the planes is if you look in between the individual components as you go and you remove a component, then all the other components potentially could be cut loose and set adrift. So the next step right now is we need to start putting parts in. And we're going to put the rear cross member in first. So the first thing to do is to go in and say vault, and then what we're going to do is say place. This goes into and pulls the parts that you've been creating, and we've been putting those into the training folder. So if we double click on training folder and we go to DWG2 rear cross member, DWG rear cross member, and say open. And what that does is it brings in this tube. So we need one rear cross member. Once you place it, left click, it will actually place it into the assembly. If you hit escape, you can put multiple ones in. If you hit escape at this point, it removes it. Now what we'd like to do is get this constrained. So first thing is to turn on the origin or get the planes shown for the rear assembly. We're going to come in and now we're going to constrain this part. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say assembly constraint, and then while we're in on the constraints, we're going to hover over each of those and see how the YZ plane lights up. You click on the YZ plane, and then we find the YZ plane for the assembly origin and click on that, and you'll get a nice dunking sound and say apply. And now there are two different, this is a make command, this is a flush command. So we're now going to leave it as mate, and we're going to touch the bottom of the tube, and you should see there's two planes at this point. There's the lower plane assembly, and then there's the bottom plane. In fact, you can select from the model tree. So if we click on that, you'll see the tube jumps up, and we're going to apply that. Now I'm going to take this tube and I'm going to drag it back. In fact, it wouldn't hurt to. We're going to drag that back a little bit and then turn on the front view plane, which is the XY plane. Turn the visibility on for that. Now what we're going to do is add the side rails. And we'll add 2. We could add 4, but we'll just add 2. Let's build this thing slowly. So back to Vault, place. It should go to the same training folders before. So now we're going to go DWG or your initials, side rail, and say open. We're going to zoom out a little bit. We're going to click twice. There's a reason for assembling these parts in this fashion, because if you constrain the parts to parts, it's not as stable. When you actually use these center planes, if one part gets removed, as I said, the other ones won't be drifting free. In this case, I'm going to come back and I'm going to turn the origins. I'm going to show the origins in here. It gets a little bit messy. Touch this assemble, constraint. We're going to do the same thing as we did before. We're going to come in and find the mid plane on the side rail. And in this case, it's the XY plane, and touch the front plane or the XY plane. Apply, and then do that on the lower one in the model tree. Do the same thing, and now you'll see that it jumps. Then the next thing after this is to constrain the bottoms of the tubes to the plane that we created. Do the same thing. You're going to have to spin the part in order to get access to be able to view the bottoms. So shift middle mouse button spins. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit escape, and I'm going to drag these 2 parts out, 2 side rails out. I'm just checking out how I went through, and so I'm going to drag this out, and now we're going to take and basically say make this flush. We want to have the end of this tube flush with this side face. And then this would be the right tube if you're looking forward. Take the end of the right tube to the end of the rear cross member, and now we're going to mate the face of the right hand side member to the face of the rear cross tube. The other mate came along for the ride over here. It's not a bad idea to go through, and it's going to be a little complicated right now. We'll just leave that. So now you can see that we have the basis of the lower chassis. Going to the second computer right now and following along in the PowerPoint. So once again, vault, place, and now we're looking for the front rails. use front cross member. This one's labeled as front cross member. Should be DWG2 front cross member. Open. You'll see that the two parts are here. Since we created these in the direction of assembly, the parts come in generally oriented. In this case, they're oriented to the assembly itself. So now let's go into assembly, constraint. Now let's follow a process we followed before. Let's set the bottom of each of these pieces to the assembly plane. This is a make command, so we're going to touch the back face and the front face of this part. Apply. Front face of the left tube, back face of the left front cross member. See how that jumped. And now we want to set it to flush. I clicked off screen. Okay, that's in good position. Remember, if you ever get completely out of position, you can always move over the cube in the upper right hand corner and click on home. Okay, so we now have the front cross members. Let's go in and add two more side rails. The side rails will come in to the inside face. So vault, place, DWG2 side rail. So place two of those. Let's turn the origins on. I'm going to turn the other origins off because we basically have used those to already align. This is the assembly origin, so that's kind of handy to have up. So let's expose both of those. Assemble, constraint. We're going to do the XY plane again. Assemble that to the center. XY again. Assemble that to the center. Assemble the bottom of the tube. To the plane, the construction plane we created. Bottom of. Oops, I got that's a bad pick. So I just escape out and just start from scratch. All right. One of these tubes is hidden. So how do you know where the tube is? So say cancel. If you want to see where the tubes are, go over to the model tree on the left and hold your cursor over. And basically the tubes are sitting on top of each other. So if I grab one of these, I can bring it over. I clicked on it. Now if you'll notice the mode right now, the tree is grayed out and it's only showing one of the components. What this does is it says it's in the edit mode specifically for that part. So we don't want to be doing that. We want to return, escape out of that, and then come back. And what we're going to do is now we're going to put a flush command in between the interface of the right tube and the interface of the inside face of the front tube, and say apply. By the way, I had set this wrong. It was set to mate, and it wouldn't actually complete the command because it physically couldn't do it. Oh, look at that. Rolling along. Let's see what was next in here. I think the front cross tube came next. Nope, it wasn't the front cross tube. It was the top rails. So let's come in. Vault. Open. Oops, not open. Vault place. Pardon me. We want rear cross member top tube. Let's also place, while we're at it, the side rail top tubes. There'll be 2 of those. Let's also place the front cross member top tube. Place 2 of those. Now the gap in between the bottom of this rail and the top of the rear cross tube and the bottom of the top tube is 1.09 inches. But if we were to go to here and we remove the tube, then the assembly wouldn't be as robust as if we created an offset. So first thing, let's turn the origin on so we can see this, and let's align the XY plane to the XY plane of the assembly. By the way, that was me clapping because the lights automatically turn off after a certain period of time. Now you'll see that this tube basically jumped down here. So I'm going to basically drag it up close to where it needs to be. I'm going to create a constraint, and this is going to be a flush constraint. We're going to go from the bottom of this tube to the offset plane. And then in here where it says offset, type 3.09 and hit enter. I'm going to create a flush command in between front face of the top tube and the front face of the rear tube. I'm going to apply that. So let's go through. Now when we created the since we copied the rear cross member to create the side tubes, remember when we copied those, the orientation was different. So now we basically have to rotate these 90 degrees about this, in this case, the y-axis. So let's start turning these, turning off the structures and come in on the side trail top tubes. Let's open those up. I'm going to basically set the hit the YZ plane and then touch the XY, apply, and then do that to the second one. Set that to the XY plane. And now we're in the right orientation. Let's set the bottom of these 2 side rails top tubes. So we're going to go back to flush or to mate, touch from the bottom of the tube to the top, and type in 3.09. What that will do is this will bring the tube up to the right level, and do the same thing on this face. Put in type 3.09. Have 2 tubes. You'll see that they're close. They're like sitting on top of each other. I'm going to hit escape, drag them generally over where they need to be. You do it without doing that, however, makes life a little bit easier. Constraint, we're going to do a flush command in between the end of the rear cross tube and face, and is now saying that I cannot do that. Actually, in this case, it's not a make command, it's a flush command. So I'm going to hit exit out of that, and I'll change that to a flush. Voila, it worked. Same command on this side. While we're in here, let's set up for these tubes. I'll come in, touch the end of that, make that flush to here. It's a little bit low, but that's alright. Do the same thing on the front left tube. Let's set this to a mate command. Hit the back of the tube, the front of this tube, back of the front right tube, flush to the side rail. Now we could do a flush right now. You know, we could basically say flush in between the bottom here, the bottom, from the bottom of this tube to the bottom of this tube. I don't like doing that, and the reason I don't like doing that is what it does is if the side tube goes away, it affects that front tube. So we're trying to make robust assemblies. So in the process of making robust assemblies, we're frozen again. Periodically the Vault computer shuts down and oops, everything came off the screen. Constraint, flush, bottom, come to the offset plane, type in 3.09. Once again, type in 3.09. Look at that. At this point, we can turn off the visibility on the origin planes and basically compress down all the tree structure, so it's a pretty clean tree structure at this point. So the only thing we're really missing right now are the corner brackets. So vault, place, come in and find DWG corner 2, open, and we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now when we put it in, it looks like we're close to where they're going to end up. It really doesn't turn out that way. Once you rotate, if you rotate this, they're all over the place. Looks like you look like you got them in the right spots. So in this case, first thing it makes it easy is if you go through and basically flush mount these to the corners. So this face is going to rotate back to this face, and I normally use the rear cross member and then apply here. Same thing here. This face is going to come to this face, and you'll notice they're not in the right plane, but we're just booking along right now. So if you rotate, this is going to have to rotate 180. So select this face, go back to the rear face of the rear cross member, apply, and then take this face, this outer face, and go to the interface of the side rail. And I'm going to the same part right now, so we could go to the top rail. However, if they're all referencing basically the lower rails, then if you lose the lower rail, then it's consistent. There is no right way and wrong way on this. We are trying to make it so we can quickly go through and maintain maintain any of these parts. Yeah, this is a long video. It's 26 minutes. Okay, I see a problem. So now we need to flush mount all of these, the ends of every single one of these. It's part of the reason I did it this way, is to, you can quickly go through and flush mount to the rear cross member. And it's saying it can't do that. I'm not sure why. I must have grabbed the wrong surface. There we go. Zooming out, going to the front corner. Okay, so all 8 of those cross member or corner supports are in. Now I noticed something. Let's come to the front view. Say cancel and zoom in. And this is something new you haven't seen before. Go to view, view style, and then set it to wireframe. And you'll notice that the holes aren't lining up right now. There's the hole in the front piece, and there's a hole in the cross member. So the front holes right now are not aligned correctly. These should be 1 5/8. And this is not in the PowerPoint that was generated for training. So I'm going to show you quickly how to fix this. We're going to go back to assembly. We're going to right click and say open. We're going to say vault checkout, because we basically want to take this part back out and want to fix it. And then if you hold over each of the extrusions, it shows what they generate, and they highlight, this one is the one we want to do. So the sketch is wrong at this point. We come in and double click on 0.625, type in 1.625. That moves the holes over. Type in here, come in and type 1.625. That fixes. Click OK. Check in. Now we'll jump back down to the assembly, and when we come back to the front view, we can see that the holes go all the way through. But this side, you can see the hole goes all the way through. This side, the hole doesn't go all the way through. So we've got a problem there. So the rear cross member is missing 4 holes. Let's look at this from the back. Okay, that's good. So the rear cross member has a problem. I prefer not to edit these, although you can edit them from the tree structure right here. We come in, double click on the sketch, we add circles, it's asking if we want to check it out. Yes, we want to check it out. We're going to add 4 circles. Let's set these, let's make them the same height as the outer circles. Let's set them so they're the same vertical spacing, so all we have to do is put 1 dimension on each side. You could dimension both circles separately. Let's put a dimension in here. So from outside face to outside face is 6. Minus 2 times 1.625. That's 2.75. Let's also fix the hole diameter here while we're here and looking at it. Same thing over here. I'll tell you what, let's make this a driven dimension. So we're going to take this 2.75 and use it to drive this diameter over here. And let's set those hole sizes to the upper left hand hole. That way if you change one dimension, everything else on the whole part changes all simultaneously. The extrusion is going to be confused now. We have to go back and update the extrusion because it didn't know about those holes. So we need to actually go back and add profiles to the extrusion to add those holes. We updated the sketch, but the extrusion needs to know about that it needs to cut those holes. So we've now fixed this in assembly. See how all the other parts are grayed out? So if we say return, we come back to the main assembly. Although, to be honest, we probably ought to open this, come in here and check it in. Created the whole assembly here. Congratulations, this is the end of lesson 7. So let's save this, come in and check it in. Thank you and see you next time.